Gotta say, it's fantastic.
Say that again?
Hey guys, it's me, Emil, and today we're going to talk about the Fantastic Four movies. In about a week, society will be graced with its decennial Fantastic Four movie. This one's being called Fantastic Four First Steps, and it's finally being produced by Disney's Marvel Studios and becoming a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. By the way, decennial means that it happens every decade, and there's three things I know about this funny little world we live in. It's death, taxes, and a new Fantastic Four movie will come out every single year that starts in a 2000 and ends in 5. Ever since the Disney and 20th Century Fox merger happened back in 2019, there's been plenty of talk and desire for them to make a new Fantastic Four movie that took place inside of the MCU. The main reason behind this, though, was because the Fox versions of the Fantastic Four movies have kind of been a little, you know, not that fantastic.
Say that again?
The first family is arguably the most iconic, consistent, and relatable superpowered family inside the Marvel Universe, which is why they're so beloved, and it would make sense that a film adaptation of them would be something that everyone is seeking after. However, as much as people love the Fantastic Four, I'm still left asking, why the hell are all of these so bad? And that's what we're going to talk about today. While the Fantastic Four are at their hopefully most popular, we're going to take a look at every single iteration of the first family in a live action movie and see how they messed up and hopefully what they can improve upon in this new Fantastic Four movie. Will this journey be worth it? Profitable? Fantastic?
Say that again?
I don't know, I'm tired of this stupid Miles Teller bit. So technically the decade that holds the slot for the first Fantastic Four movie was the 90s, because in 1994 we had the not release of the Fantastic Four. And the reason I say not release is this movie's a little weird, because the deal with this one is that it was never supposed to ever exist. In 1992, German producer
Bernd Eichinger
purchased the film rights for the Fantastic Four for about $250,000. But because he had no real plan of how or when he was going to film this movie, he started to sit on the property and just not really do anything with it. But eventually other production companies were like, yeah, making a Fantastic Four movie does sound really good. I think we should try to look into that. So he wanted an extension, but he couldn't get an extension unless he would make a movie. So in an attempt to extend his company's film rights, he divulged a little scheme of sorts. While keeping like almost every single person working on the movie in the dark, including the cast, he was going to shoot a low-budget B movie with the help of Roger Corman, a guy who specialized in making these B movies. Although the budget was like $1 million, and if you ask me, that's kind of a lot of money. If you gave me $1 million to make a movie, I could probably figure out how to make an A movie with that. But after this film finished production, trailers released, and people were starting to get hyped about this movie. Like, remember, 1994 was not that long ago. That's a post-Gremlins 1 and 2 world. But as soon as it was supposed to have the world premiere, they shut that stuff down quick. They shut it down quick and sent a cease and desist letter. Apparently the reason for the cease and desist was because they didn't want it to cheapen the brand of the Fantastic Four. It's a little late at that point that you're mad about them making the movie. They already filmed it, had a score written, had it edited, and everything. It's a little late now to backtrack. But then the eventual future founder of Marvel Studios would buy every single copy of this film and destroy it. So yeah, the only way you can watch this Fantastic Four movie, technically it is a Fantastic Four movie, but the only way you could watch it is bootleg copies on the internet. Apparently some people behind the scenes claim that it was never a big scheme and they were just genuinely trying to make a B movie version of the Fantastic Four, but I don't believe that for a second. Do you see all the crap Warner Brothers is pulling now? Like with the Batgirl movie, Scoob, Holiday Haunt, The Day the Earth Blew Up, and Coyote vs. Acme especially. So with the film not even releasing normally, it had a lot going against it. But the real question that we're here to discuss today is, how is the actual quality of this movie? I don't know if this is a misprint, but my notes are saying it's the best one. Okay, so take this with a grain of salt, because this is coming from the guy who has Killer Clowns from Outer Space in his Letterboxd top 4. But I think I'm in love with this movie, especially since I know that it was made by people that make B movies. And even though this was a scheme slash tax write-off, whatever you want to call it, this turned out to be a pretty competent and good adaptation of the Fantastic Four. But before I glaze it too much, let me go to some of the bad stuff about this movie, because, you know, that's what we're talking about in this video. I think my biggest gripe is that the guy who plays the Thing, I think it was a bad casting choice. He doesn't really sound kind of like he's from New York or Yancey Street or anything.
It's clobbering time.
He kind of sounds like the Yeti from Smiling Friends.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Another aspect of the film that I didn't really like was the subplot with the jeweler. From what I gather, the jeweler is a villain in the rogues gallery of the Fantastic Four. He's not as big as like Silver Surfer or Doctor Doom, but he does exist and he's in this movie. His whole deal in this is that he stole a diamond that was supposed to help the Fantastic Four when they go on their mission to space, but then he steals the diamond and that's what causes their crash in this movie and for them to get all their powers. But then after that, he's not really doing much. Now that he has the diamond, he becomes like the ruler of like the weirdos and misfits of New York City. I'm all for weirdos in cinema, but I don't know. I felt like this movie could have been a little shorter. Why wouldn't you make it shorter? You were doing this to like not make the movie to begin with. At one point when Ben Grimm gets upset that he looks, you know, like that, he leaves for a little bit and joins the jeweler's group of misfits and weirdos. So I feel like you can justify his reasoning for being in the movie, but at the same time, I don't feel like doing that many mental gymnastics. I said take it or leave it, okay? He's in the movie. I'm fine with that. I think this might be my favorite one still. And then if I had one more issue with the movie, it would be the constant use of like the same themes throughout the entire film. Like they would have one song that they would play for one character, and every time that character was on screen, they would play that exact song. I get it. They didn't have a budget, but I know that's Doctor Doom's theme. Yeah, it goes kind of hard. The jeweler's theme goes really hard, but you surely don't have to play it every single scene. But weirdly enough, I think that's all the negatives I have about this movie, and I think the donut factory is about to open up because I'm about to do some glazing. This movie's biggest strength is something that the others are afraid to do, which is fully commit to the bit. The Thing casually says it's clobbering time. Johnny says flame on. Sue Storm makes them their comic accurate suits. And Doctor Doom lives in an evil freaking castle. This movie feels like a Saturday morning cartoon, and I think that gives it a certain charm. Also, it has the best live action Doom. There, I said it. And you know, this might be beaten when Robert Downey Jr. says, "I hate you 3000." And I think it's because he kind of feels disconnected to the Fantastic Four origin story. In every other Fantastic Four iteration, they feel the need to include Doctor Doom in the incident that got them their powers. But for this movie, Victor has his own incident where he's kind of burned, and Reed Richards thinks that he died. Then the movie skips ahead 10 years, and somehow Victor Von Doom has returned. And in these 10 years that he's away, it gives him time to fully turn into the comic accurate version of Doom. And if these movies insist on having Doctor Doom be a part of them, then I think this is the best way to do it. Have Doctor Doom in some kind of other incident that doesn't involve the Fantastic Four. Because if he gets his powers at the same time as the Fantastic Four, we get to some issues that happen in later movies, where like he's learning how to be a supervillain as they're learning how to be superheroes. Or we kind of just don't see him, you know, like the whole movie. This dude is awesome, and he is aura farming the entire movie. You know, besides the points where he's talking to the Fantastic Four, those are kind of cheesy and funny.
Yeah, well, who asked you, you overgrown tin can?
Hot-tempered, aren't we, Jonathan?
However, this movie isn't called Doctor Doom. The most important aspect of a Fantastic Four movie is the familiar relationship of the actual Fantastic Four. How does that come across? It's pretty good. They all seem to have a really good relationship in this movie, and I don't know. I think it's kind of an issue that they're gonna be kind of freaked out in the origin story because, you know, they've mutated into like crazy little creatures. So it might not be the best moment to make a live action adaptation of the best parts of the Fantastic Four, but I don't really have a huge issue with their relationship or this movie in general. I kind of love this. But the 2005 movie, on the other hand, I've got a few things to say about that. In 2005, Fantastic Four was released, aka the one that he wanted to make originally, but couldn't because he couldn't think of an idea, and they went through a lot of directors and a lot of writers, and finally they landed on Tim's story. It's gotta be better than the 1994 one, right? Not really. Like I said before, the incident isn't just Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben. They also feel the need to put Victor in on this incident, and they also feel the need to put him in a weird love triangle with Reed Richards and Sue Storm. Hey, I don't want to see all the lines pointing to Sue. I want to see what that triangle looks like going from Victor to Reed. But yeah, this movie's kind of a mess. I remember growing up, I really liked this one. I actually had this one on DVD, as you can see in the background. But watching it today, oh my lord, there's a lot of filler in this movie. I think I realized this a lot when I watched all the Final Destination movies a few weeks ago, but these 2000 movies felt the need to just put like so much boring, things that just didn't matter in this movie. Because dude, Johnny Storm was aggravating the hell out of me in this movie. Every single scene where they're like, oh, we're about to figure it out. How about you just stay put and then we're gonna figure out what's wrong with us. He feels the need to go snowboarding or skateboarding or racing in his car, which yeah, all fit the character of Johnny Storm, But I don't need to watch that a million times throughout the movie. At points, Johnny Storm feels like the main character of this movie, which is even weirder because he's played by Chris Evans. I know in the 2000s it was like the thing to show in movies a skater, rad, cool dude, which I'm fine with if it happens for like a scene to establish a character. But dude, I had a lot of nostalgia for the actual superhero scenes, not this stuff. And unless you have nostalgia for that stuff, it's not really doing much for you. And you know what? At this point, I'm kind of glad he got skinned to death in Deadpool and Wolverine. But it's not just the cool skater boy stuff. There's a lot of stuff in this duology that they made specifically for the 2000s audience.
Sue, your clothes.
Why does this always happen to me?
Because they're creeps, Sue. I'm sorry. But besides the 2000s tropes, something I think is really dumb is the guy they casted for Dr. Doom in this movie. I'm sorry, but Julian McMahon's voice is just not it. He doesn't come across as annoying, but he just sounds not menacing at all. And it's Dr. Doom, dude.
This is gonna be fun.
They could have given him a deeper voice, a modulator, or something to make him more scary. But he is the least intimidating Dr. Doom so far. However, I don't only have negative thoughts about this movie. Like I said, I did like this movie a lot growing up, and I do have some things that I remember pretty fondly, and I think have just made this a good movie in general. Despite what I said about Johnny, I think all of the Fantastic Four are like perfect casting, and this is what I think of when I think about the Fantastic Four. We'll see if the new movie changes that for me. And above all, I think this iteration of The Thing is like my favorite. Another great thing about this one is they're treated like actual celebrities. Depending on how they get there is like comic accurate or not. At least that is something that they took from the actual origins of the characters. And besides it being accurate to the comics, I think it's just a smarter choice in general to have the media refer to them as the Fantastic Four. And then Johnny kind of gives them their superhero names because he's like trolling them on live TV. Also, besides the choice of having Sue and Reed have a weird relationship with Victor, I think the family dynamic works pretty good here. As opposed to the 1994 version, they were a little too friendly with each other, almost like a sitcom-ish kind of friendly, whereas these guys are actually like messing with each other, and they feel like more of a realistic kind of family. And clearly audiences thought so too, because this wasn't the only version of the Fantastic Four with this cast. 2 years later, there was a sequel called Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. I think Rise of the Silver Surfer is the most interesting out of all the Fantastic Four movies because this tackles a part of their journey that has never been explored in film. Typically it's just their origin story, but since this one's a sequel, they had to do a different arc in the comics. And this one has a focus on Sue Storm and Reed Richards' wedding. And I'm definitely not mad that there was a sequel. As much as I clowned on the 2000s-isms, it's definitely the best Fantastic Four movie that was released at that time. And the only Fantastic Four movie that was released at that time. But Rise of the Silver Surfer does kind of improve on some of my issues with the first one, which was like they don't go on little hijinks with 2000s adventures. They focus on the wedding, the stuff with the Silver Surfer, and this new fun thing that I kind of like, where they kind of switch powers. It definitely isn't used to its like full potential, but it definitely is an interesting aspect of this film. And the reason for this power switch thing is because after Johnny chases Silver Surfer into space, he's like, your planet is marked for death, and then he goes back to Earth, and every single time he touches another member of the Fantastic Four, he gets their abilities and they get his. And then at the end of the movie, he uses it against a returning Dr. Doom that I still don't like the casting choice. They didn't change anything about him. He's a little more goofier in this, but dude, whatever. Speaking of villains though, there is 2 new villains introduced to the film resume of Fantastic Four villains. Besides Dr. Doom being in this one, we have the aforementioned Silver Surfer, and frickin' Galactus is in this. Yeah, they decided to put Galactus in the sequel. However, similar to Dr. Doom in the first one, they kind of fumbled again. First, let's talk about Silver Surfer though, because he's not done like too dirty in this one. Sure, he has like 2000s level CGI. Disregard the fact that Avatar comes out 2 years after this, but he's a pretty interesting character in this. I think my biggest issue with Silver Surfer in this movie is that he isn't developed that much. I feel like instead of doing the power switching shenanigans, they could have explored Silver Surfer's character a little more. But now Galactus, he's a freaking cloud, dude. Like, I get it. This movie was made in the 2000s. Committing to the bit was not that cool, but this is the same movie that has a flying car and Dr. Doom on a flying surfboard. I don't think a giant planet-eating man is out of the question. And I think that's it. I think we've cracked the case on why these Fantastic Four movies kind of suck. It's because they don't want to lean into how ridiculous the Fantastic Four is. They are named Mr. Fantastic, the Invisible Invisible Woman, the Human Torch, and the Thing. Why the hell are we trying to add some realism and edge to these characters? At the end of the day, they are legitimately cartoon characters, and we need to accept that. The reason we are able to relate to the Fantastic Four is not because, oh my god, he's just like me, because if he falls over, he trips. No, dude, it's the familial ties that make these families feel a lot more realistic. But with that being said, if you don't know what I mean by the things we need to make a good Fantastic Four movie, let me point you to the one that does all of this completely wrong. Fantastic Four 2015, or as I'm going to call it, Fant4stick. But Fant4stick is like the Murphy's Law of Fantastic Four movies, because everything that can go wrong does go wrong. Now, I'll give this movie a little credit, tiny small credit. The beginning that explores Ben and Reed's early friendship as kids is pretty nice, and I do really like that. But I don't think they cared about that little fact for the rest of the movie. And now here's the part where I explain the stuff I don't like about this movie. I'm gonna do it in list format and just name the stuff that I don't like. Johnny Storm isn't introduced until over 20 minutes into the movie. Victor Von Doom is, again, for some reason, a part of the accident that causes the Fantastic Four to get their powers. And he's introduced before Johnny Storm. And on top of that, he is a basement dweller Redditor. The suits they wear are black, not blue. Ben gets the "It's clobbering time" catchphrase from his abusive older brother. The Thing doesn't wear pants, and he looks like a piece of Popeye's chicken. These characters that are based off of astronauts don't get their powers in space, but from a teleporting machine. The Thing, Human Torch, and Invisible Woman are all used as weapons by the government. At one point in the movie, all the characters hate Reed Richards, and the final battle happens on an alien planet. But I can go on and on and on and on and on. This movie feels like it is desperately trying to follow in the footsteps of Zack Snyder's Man of Steel. Because in the same way they did it to Superman, this film takes every single good thing about the Fantastic Four and says, nah, but what if they were evil? This movie feels like if somebody vaguely heard of the Fantastic Four and said, yeah, we're gonna do that, but make it evil. And we're gonna make it a body horror movie. And we're gonna make the Thing naked. Why did they make him naked? But I think the part of this movie that takes the cake and it makes it the worst Fantastic Four movie, maybe movie ever, is that they magically all just become friends after hating each other's guts the entire runtime. And then after they're all lovey-dovey, we get the worst written scene in cinema history.
Which reminds me, I think that the four of us should have a name.
Why would we need a name?
Because we're a team now, and there's four of us, so we should come up with a name for it.
Gotta say, it's fantastic.
Say that again?
It's fantastic.
Yes, it is. Guys, I got it.
So what does Fantastic Four need to do in order to become the best iteration of the Fantastic Four? Just be a good movie, I guess? The 1994 adaptation had budget constraints. The 2000s duology just thought it was too cool to commit to the actual superhero movie, even though there was flying surfboards and rock monsters. And Fant4stick just didn't want to do anything remotely close to the Fantastic Four. They should have just made a different movie. However, there's one positive thing I can say about the MCU. Whenever they make one of these big superhero movies, they tend to make it very comic accurate. And everything I've seen from the trailers looks really good. Their costumes look great. It seems like they're leaning into the goofy side of the Fantastic Four. I'm super excited to watch this movie, but you know, they could screw this up in a totally unheard of way that we just haven't even thought about yet. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you really like one of these bad Fantastic Four movies? Are you excited for the new one? Do you like these bigger breakdown videos? Because I think this is the direction my channel is going to start heading, because I do like these kind of videos. I want to know everything you got to say in the comment section down below. So I think that's about it for me. Leave a like, subscribe, and I see you guys next week. Bye.